Hello, fourth graders. Today in our reading groups, we're going to be talking about domain-specific vocabulary. So lately in our reading group, we have been talking about performance arts. And so today we're going to be looking more closely at 4 different vocabulary words that are all about performance arts. And so our first one is broadcast. Then we'll do journalism, correspondent, and public relations. So our first one is broadcast. And what this means is to send out on a radio or television. So this is anything that you see on your TV at night when you watch the news with your family. This has to be broadcasted by someplace. So it can be a radio or a television program that you see. So a sentence or an example of this would be when television stations send out the Super Bowl for us to watch, they have to broadcast that event for us to receive that at home or on our phones or whatever it is. Our next one is a correspondent. You will probably see correspondents at night when you watch the news with your family, or even when the news channel was here in our room. We saw that correspondent woman who was here, and she was hired to report the news. So the news was on our classroom about our indoor recess, and so she was hired to report that news. So this person is hired to either report the news through a newspaper, through radio, or through the television. The next one is journalism. So this is a job of collecting, writing, or editing news stories. So this is where they go. It's like a place where they go and they collect their data, their story, they write it, and then they have to edit those videos or those news clippings that they want to tell their audience. So this is for newspapers, for television, radio, magazines, or even the internet. So anything that you read or that you see on TV, that is an example of journalism. The next one, if you write news articles for a newspaper, you are involved in journalism. Our last one is public relations. So public relations is the relationship between an organization and the public. And so any organization wants to have a good reputation with the public. They want to send out a good image. So an example of this would be a company can support a local team to build a good relationship with the community. So here I have NDSU. So any company in Fargo-Moorhead, they can support NDSU. And then that way they are going to build that good relationship with the community around here, because generally people around here like the NDSU football team. So that would be an example of public relations. So a quick review of what we were just learning is these vocabulary words are all on performing arts and how we get the news. So I want you to think, how do these 4 words relate to what we have been reading so far about in Invasion from Mars and History of the Radio? I'll give you a few seconds to think. So in the story Invasion from Mars, we know that that was a story all about a reporter or a correspondent giving the story about the space shuttle coming down from space. And then the History of the Radio, that was all about how people would get their news. So that how it would have to be broadcasted through the radio for families to get their news. And to get their news through the radio, somebody would have to be a journalist, and they have to have some journalism going on to make those stories. So through the radio, through the TV stations, whatever people decide to get their news from, those people have to have good public relations. So then people want to watch their TV shows, people want to listen to their radio show, and through all those things, it will make a good image with the public. So that is all. Today in group, we are going to be going over these a little bit more closely. Thank you, fourth graders.